been one hell of a year, hasn't it? Literally, Christmas is around the corner as filming of this review, and hell of a review it's gonna be. Because I wasn't gonna do anything well into the new year. I was gonna actually take a break, but when we got a last-minute donation from our boy Johnny Page, I decided, what the hell, I'll humor him, and took a look at the review, the fanfic he requested. Now, he requested two, but I went with one over the other because, honestly, I wanted to see what it was. And when I saw what it was, when I read it, found the Discord, and started actually looking into it, I knew I had to talk about it. And, ladies and gentlemen, Legion probably is one of the most ambitious, if not, honestly, the most fun fanfic I've ever read in my life. It is what happens when you take My Hero Academia and the idea of the clones from Star Wars The Clone Wars, and you combine the two with our favorite little green-haired Cinnabon himself. And, my god, there's a lot to get into. So let's get into it, shall we? So what is Legion exactly? Legion is what happens when a Star Wars fan from the OG days of Attack of the Clones and Clone Wars looks at My Hero Academia and be like, what would happen if Izuku Midoriya had a quirk that basically caused him to have the Camino clothing facility from Star Wars The Clone Wars? And just Star Wars in general, including Legends material, because fuck you, Disney, Legends is still canon. And what I mean by that is, literally the dude throws everything in the kitchen sink at the son of a bitch. I'm talking, he even went as far as to have Delta Squad on this, and the best part is spoiler alert, Nana, the whatever user of One For All, literally did the line from the game.
You have been born into dangerous times. A sharp mind can be the key to survival. But as often as not, it will be your inherent physical traits that win the day. And in this regard, you will be superior to your more common brethren. For you are a commando, an elite unit, something truly special. Your weapons, your armor, and most importantly, your brothers.
Do you understand why Republic Commando is so good? Go get a copy. I don't care if you gotta pirate the damn game. I don't care what you gotta do. Go. Just go. Okay? Republic Commando is worth your time. Like, seriously, it's worth your time. Sound off in the comments section if you remember it on the good old Xbox days. I do, and I even have the demo on the original Star Wars The Clone Wars cartoon from '05 DVD that I actually have, that I need to go look for and find one of these days. Anyway, now you're thinking, okay, what's so big about this? What's so great about this? Well, there's a lot in this that's actually been done in this 40-something page fan fiction. Well, 30 if you don't count the announcement pages and, of course, the art pages, which, believe me, the artwork is actually pretty good, and we're going to get into that. But the big thing about this fanfic is that, again, it is Star Wars through and through, but it's about the clones. Not only that, but he was able to actually incorporate a lot of the Clone Wars material, including the Mandalorians, the Night Owls, Vizsla, all of them. And let me tell you, it all begins with Izuku Midoriya thinking he's quirkless until at the age of, well, at a young age, basically, he gets a brother, a twin brother, known as Django. And Django is the complete tonal opposite of Izuku until Izuku, thanks to Django, really starts kind of growing into his own and even starts to become his own person. The big thing about that is Izuku Midoriya growing up, when we see him in the show, is kind of a meek, kind of just nice kid. And don't get me wrong, he's still nice in the fanfic, it's just he's not meek or kind of closed off. He is more confident, he's got a backbone, he actually does legitimately wail on Bakugo the frickin' explosive Pomeranian we all know and ship, apparently, to high hell and back. Do not look up Bakugo art. Do not look Bakugo up with your Google safe search on. Believe me, you do not want to go down that deep, dark rabbit hole. At all.
Oh my.
But as the fic goes on, we actually do get to learn more about Izuku Midoriya's quirk. And sadly, I don't want to go into spoiler territory, but the one I will talk about, spoiler-wise, is the USJ attack. The USJ attack is probably the most emotional one can get, because you get connected with Django, and if you've seen Attack of the Clones, you know exactly what's coming. You know what's going to happen to Django, but here's the thing. It's the way the author plans it out, and how he executes it. And he executes it just like Team 4-Star did with Dragon Ball Z Abridged.
Think you're better than everyone else, but there you stand, the good man doing nothing. And while evil triumphs and your rigid pacifism crumbles into blood-stained dust, the only victory afforded to you is that you stuck true to your guns. You were a coward to your last whimper. Of fear and love, I fear not that I will die, but that all I have come to love, the birds, and the things that are not birds, will perish with me. So please, Gohan, stop holding back. And hey, if we do make it out of this, please pick up my head and beat your father to death with...
I'd say he's gone to a better place, but we both know he never had a soul.
I am not lying, ladies and gentlemen, when I say that when I read that, and I saw that, I had the song playing in my head. I saw Gohan just erupting into Super Saiyan 2, or just Super Saiyan, essentially. I saw Izuku Midoriya just breaking down like Gohan did in not just the OG Dragon Ball Z, but also Dragon Ball Z Abridged. And that's fucking good. That's a good thing to connect with that kind of emotional scene. Not only that, but the Mandalorian language itself is incorporated really good into this, and I'm not going to spoil much, but I am going to talk about some things that I actually do like from this fanfic, and I'm going to keep going forward with that. Legion, as a whole, is one of those fanfictions where you play spot the reference. Not only that, but when talking in the Discord itself, apparently a lot of the clones are actually, well, reader submitted and even kind of helped out. Even then, there's a lot of good stuff in here. I mean, yes, Satine and the Night Owls actually do play a part, because a clone known as Thorn, I'm not going to get into it, but I will say this now. You feel sorry for the girl. That's all I'm going to say. The other element, of course, is the fact of just all the Star Wars elements. Even Senator Chuchi makes an appearance in the fact of she's a part of the Diet Building and even has a connection to the MLA and their propaganda officer, which is basically the reporter, the blue chick. She's her cousin. And that can also play a big role into that. And later on, I'm going to give my thoughts on, mind you. Even then, there is a lot going on with this. And I mean that in the sense of, you play spot the reference because there's a lot of references in this. One of my favorite being the fact that the dude was able to even incorporate Atlantis into this. And by Atlantis, I mean Atlantis, the Lost Kingdom, or Lost Empire. Basically the underrated, criminally underrated Disney animated movie.
Blondie, I got a bone to pick with you.
Hold that thought. What is it this time, Cookie?
You done stuffed my wagon full to busting with non-essentials. Look at all this. Cinnamon, oregano, cilantro. What in a cockadoodle? Cilantro. What is this?
That would be lettuce.
Lettuce? Lettuce?
It's a vegetable, Cookie. The men need the 4 basic food groups.
I got you 4 basic food groups. Beans, bacon, whiskey, and lard.
Yes, he used that scene. Yes, it's amazing. Yes, I hope he does more. The big one, though, is the fact of the clone question. The clones are kind of a split. Unless you've actually been with the clones themselves and you've actually kind of talked with them, all you see them as is just tools and pawns or a quirk. And because the author is now active military, I'm kind of assuming that he's putting a lot of his own thoughts of how the civilian population kind of views soldiers. Real talk here for a second, folks. I'm a son of a soldier. I've come from a military family. So I completely understand how the civilians, those who aren't around soldiers all that much, kind of just see them as just, and I hate to say it, but just killing machines. Those who are automatons that don't really, they just follow orders and they kill people without question, without emotion. That could be further from the truth. My own father has PTSD from his time in the military, from the stuff he's seen. My own grandfather, who was a soldier during Vietnam in the U.S. Army, an infantryman, he couldn't talk about what he saw in war. But he was a very, very good person. And from that generation, and even looking at it from the clone perspective, the clone troopers are basically like the soldiers from Vietnam. People didn't see them as people, especially those fucking hippies. They just saw them as killers and automatons meant to just follow orders. Another cog in the machine. And that's why I love clone troopers so much. I just see them as veterans of Vietnam as the allegory of them. And again, that will kind of tie back into my thoughts of how the author could go forward with this. But let's get back to the actual story itself. It's in a sense of each clone has their own personality, and aside of course from Delta Squad actually having the spotlight, we also get all the fan favorites. But the big one that's actually kind of sad is the fact of all the events that happen in this. We get a lot of just powerful moments in this fanfic. And there are a lot of powerful moments. Even when Izuku Midoriya instead of Bakugo is captured, which by the way, Izuku Midoriya is Mandalore, just so you know. Mandalore, you know, the leader, as in, you know, the dude, the holder of the Darksaber. Moving on. I don't want to spoil that. But when it comes to the Hero Safety Commission, they were even talking about using the clones as nothing more than expendable cannon fodder. And when the heroes who actually knew the clones, understood the clones, ate with the clones, laughed with the clones, basically saw them as who they are, as people, that did not fly over well, especially All Might, who sees Izuku Midoriya as a son, and even in the fanfic, spoiler warning, actually replaces his deadbeat father, and even becomes Inako Midoriya's second husband, because she's got his bun in her oven, and...
Excuse me, the fuck did you just say?
And let me tell you now, folks, if you have seen a TikToker who does some funny stuff with My Hero Academia, you'll understand what Izuku Midoriya is going to do. But let's just face it now, it's about as funny as you think it is, but I'm not going to say any more of that outside of... you're gonna enjoy the reaction and the fact of All Might is lucky he didn't have a frickin' battalion or even any clones coming after him, essentially. But there are very good moments. Eerie is actually saved early, and even grows a strong connection to Coda early on. And that does tie in, once again, back to the clones, and even some of how the characters change and grow. That is one thing I kind of want to point out about this fanfic, is the fact of the characters legitimately feel organic. They feel like they're actually growing. Even when the combat begins, a lot of kids, students even, will pick up a blaster. When the events and the fight for All for One happens, even when Island happens, these hero kids are not just sitting back and doing nothing. They're actually picking up a weapon and they're actually fighting. And yes, you heard me right. They're picking up a weapon. They're picking up blasters. They are fighting alongside clones. They are not sitting back. They're doing their part. So the clones don't have to die for them. That is fucking powerful, in my opinion, and leads back to what the author could do in the future. I am not joking, nor am I just exaggerating when I say that Legion probably is the most most ambitious and most fun fanfiction I've ever seen from the My Hero Academia fanfiction scene, as well as with Star Wars. Again, it brings up some cool questions and even brings up a lot of other stuff. Even going as far as pulling an Inception and going into Izuku Midoriya's mind, which, again, that's something else I want to bring up in the long run. But there's a lot of cool stuff in this fanfic that I really want to talk about, but I don't want to because I don't want to spoil it. I want you guys to go check it out yourself. But that brings us to now the later half of this review and what the author could do with this. So I'm just going to say this right now. The big thing about this fanfic is that the author could do a lot. He's brought up some nice political stuff, but the biggest one about it is just how he can kind of incorporate a lot of better, well, not better, really interesting ideas. Especially with the Separatists being hinted at in the trailer chapter. And yes, the Separatists are coming. What the author could do is actually create a joint tactical force between, of course, Japan and America and the Vode, or at least in this case, the Clone Army. Another element that he could do and pull is the fact of Japan technically doesn't have a National Guard. They have the JSDF, they got the Japanese Ground Self-Defense Force, they have the Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force, they have the Japanese Air Self-Defense Force. Special Forces does not count in the fact of Special Forces is a part of the Japanese Ground Self-Defense Force and Japanese Maritime Self-Defense Force. So that's SF. They don't count. It's like trying to say that, oh, Delta and Airborne and Green Berets and Rangers are their own branches of the Army. They're not. They're just SF. They're Special Forces. But either way, though, what he could do is basically create a Japanese National Self-Defense, National Guard Defense Force, or a Japanese National Defense Force, a JNDF, which is basically the clones. And they would be a part of basically Japanese, basically the JSDF command structure, and would answer to the Diet. Basically keeping them out of the Hero Safety Commission's hands because, and this is something I brought up in the server, but I might as well bring up here. The moment the Hero Safety Commission thinks they can actually use the JSDF as a means to try and bring the clones under their control, would basically be this reaction from the commanding officers and the commanding generals, admirals, and basically high command of the JSDF as a whole to the Hero Safety Commission.
Let me ask you a question. Are you prepared to die for your cause? I was acting. Or was I?
Yeah, no. Soldiers do not turn on soldiers. And the JSDF, which, again, with the Cultural Festival, they could actually have JSDF and even American military representatives there kind of looking at the clones, kind of talking to them, and kind of just, you know, kind of getting a feel for them. Yes, Nezu would obviously be on guard, as well as Izuku, but Izuku respects the military more than he respects a government body that thinks they have more power than the main government. And again, pulling from real life, when a government body believes themselves to be more powerful than the legislative branch of the government, or even the main government themselves, is when you start looking at their finances and start to do a deep audit. Yes, I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you guys. Yeah, I hope you get defunded. Again, this is where a lot of the respect to the military can kind of come into play, especially with the music. Music is a big part of this fanfic, and it is actually really good. Something that they could actually use, of course, with the clones is a couple of songs. A cadence that could be used is Fallen Soldiers. Fallen Soldiers talking about essentially the soldiers who have died and have basically helped create a future for the next generation, and the fact that we stand on the shoulders of these fallen heroes. Another good one, of course, could be a song that can be sung by the clones, which of course is 1916. The Sabaton cover, as much as I do love the Motorhead cover, and don't get me wrong, Lenny's voice is great, the Sabaton cover is more powerful. Again, I love I love the original Motorhead version, I just think Sabaton's is more powerful, and more feeling behind it. Again, there's a lot that can be done, and a lot of good stuff, including Hey Brother is another good song that can be used. Again, there's a lot of good military-themed music around, of course, the men and women of our armed forces, and just the camaraderie and the respect we have in the services, and for the services that basically protect our rights and freedoms we have today. Another big element that can come from, of course, Izuku Midoriya having much more closer relations to the military is, again, something that I think a lot of people forget, is the fact of Japan has a joint defense pact with the United States. And if anything was to happen to Japan, be it external or internal invasion, or any sort of military force that is basically threatening Japan and has openly attacked them, the United States comes in the help of the defense of Japan. This is an actual joint defense pact we have with them, and if it's still enacted and still a part of basically this version, Legion's version of Japan in the United States, then what could happen when the Separatists do come about is we see essentially a North Korea situation, where the Separatist, or in this case, North Korea, analog, is facing essentially the United Nations, or in this case, a joint tactical force of course, the JSDF, the Vode, the clones, and of course, the United States military, or at least in this case, the Marines, Air Force, and Army elements that are in, well, Japan and stationed in Japan, and could ultimately split the country in two. Because as much as I want to say, oh yeah, no, Japan would not fall into a civil war type situation, No. You clearly haven't looked at Japan's history in the past couple hundred years, have you? Because, they have faced a couple of civil wars. They have faced a couple of unification wars. They have faced upheavals. They have faced actual armed insurrections. I mean, Jesus Christ, how do you think Imperial Japan came to be? I'm just saying, okay? Whew. Moving away from that uncomfortable topic, the big thing with the conflict itself, the Sino-Separatist War, unless of course, you know, the author has another name for the conflict, we could see a lot of government entities, or at least a lot of those who are not friendly to the Western world, kind of help support the Separatist. And we can see, of course, the militaries of the Western world, the Allies, the JTF, while not getting, of course, the technology needed for, say, you know, from the clones, because, you know, they could be a nice little stipulation saying, you know, we're not going to give you our tech, but we are going to work together with you, you know, unless we trust you. I could see the U.S. military and even the JSDF actually kind of adopting an armor similar to the clones, a la Imperial Army troopers. As for the weapons, while I cannot speak for the JSDF, I can speak for the U.S. military, considering, well, I know the U.S. military adoption, and of course I've looked at the history of the U.S. military's adoption of firearms, and let's face it, they go for something that's basically similar to the Armalite platform, which is why I'm going to use this Fallout 4 mod as an analog. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the AER-15, the Adaptive Electronic or Adaptive Energy Rifle, or Automatic Energy Rifle, or Adaptive Electronic Rifle, Model 15. Essentially an AR-15 platform that essentially uses energy-based magazines instead of good old-fashioned ballistics. And honestly, if you look at the XM-15, or the Sig Sauer Spear that's in use right now with the military, look at the operation systems and kind of how the trigger group is, and you'll understand why the military will go for something that's, again, familiar for them, because the Armalite platform is something that is familiar. I mean, my God, if you need any more examples, look into the ACRW platform, or the Advanced Combat Rifle Weapon, or Advanced Combat Weapon System trials that literally spent $11 billion trying to basically find a more accurate weapon, only to realize, oh, we'll just take an ACOG and the freaking other weapon, the other scope that they had, and do that, essentially. And it just... God, the requisition offices. If you need a good example, look up the Bradley. Just look at the Bradley's development history. That's all you need to know. Now, in terms of the actual composite of the body armor itself, which I know everyone's going to ask about, because I know you people, I know you're going to ask. While not as good as the clone's body armor, which that's arguable, the body armor that can actually be used is a type of a metallic sheet or type of material over a Kevlar composite material underneath. Think of it kind of like a plate carrier of sorts, where essentially you have a plate in there, or even Kevlar body armor. It's a combination of that, where it not only has, of course, ballistic-rated resistance, but it also has, of course, energy-based resistance. It's basically a combination of the two. And with the combat, or the Sino-Separatist War, we can definitely see, essentially, a mass testing of it, or at least a trials by fire type element. And whatever happens afterwards is completely up to the author, but again, there's a lot that can be done with this, and there's a lot that can be good with it. And, honestly, I look forward to seeing where he goes with the story. I mean, hell, even if he doesn't allow Izuku Midoriya or the clones to basically be the fourth branch of the JSDF, he could do something kind of similar to Call of Duty Advanced Warfare with, of course, Irons Industries, where they are the world's largest private military, and essentially they answer to no one, only to basically their contracts. Or, better yet, they could essentially be another branch of, like, the UN, where they could basically be a part of the UN peacekeeping forces. Again, there's a lot that can be done with it, and something that could be a lot of fun with. And when it comes to the heroes and the Safety Commission, something that can be done with the Safety Commission is they can pull an Operation Valkyrie, where essentially the U.S. government does know about the Safety Commission, or essentially the government as a whole, where let's say the Japanese government does know about the Safety Commission, but they haven't gotten a chance to take them out because, well, they haven't found a reason to take him out. Well, with Izuku Midoriya and his clones, they have a reason to take him out. The Middle Liberation Army, even, is another good example, where essentially they start out, you know, with good intentions, and the biggest reason for that is, once again, the Hero Safety Commission, and the government as a whole being as inept as it is, or at least as stigmatic as it is. I mean, hell, the biggest reason to pull an Operation Valkyrie with the Hero Safety Commission, or at least in this case, a type of coup, is because of Lady Nagant. Lady Nagant basically did a lot of horrible shit, and even Hawks did a lot of horrible shit for the Hero Safety Commission. And when it's brought up, especially during, say, one of the many conflicts, or one of the many combats, especially when the subject of the clones are brought up, when it's finally brought to the point where the clones basically are well out of reach of the Hero Safety Commission, that's when the Japanese government could actually enact a plan to take them out, or in this case, bring them to justice, with the help and backing, of course, the U.S. military, U.S. intelligence agency, and even the CIA, where, again, they basically storm the Hero Safety Commission building and arrest everyone on site. A good example of this that's been done in real life, with the military being used to take on a type of agency, was, of course, the U.S. Marines storming Langley when President Trump was still in office. And, again, good example there. And something that can feasibly be done. And, I'll be honest, it'd be kind of interesting to see, because the Hero Safety Commission could try and label them as villains trying to pull a coup, only for them to present a warrant for their arrest from the Japanese government. And, of course, their own legislative branch, considering that the Hero Safety Commission, once again, basically has overreach. has well overreached their boundaries and what they do and what they're meant to do. Again, there's a lot that can be done with that. There's a lot that can be done with the situation and scenarios. I mean, hell, from the Sino-Separatist War to even the whole thing with the purist cult trying to unleash chemical weapons worldwide. We'll get to that, I promise you, in another video. We'll talk about that stupidity in another video. But, again, there's a lot of cool stuff that can be done with this fanfic, and I hope and I legitimately cannot wait to see what comes of this. Because, again, there's a lot of cool stuff here, and I legitimately want to see it. But, till then, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Airsoft Al, and this has been the last review for 2023. I will return in 2024 after January, because I am going to take a long holiday break. And, as always, I've been Airsoft Al, and I wish everyone watching this a very Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah to my family in Jerusalem, and to those fighting in Israel, as well as my Jewish family in the States. And of course, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Festivus for the rest of us. And to those who don't celebrate the holidays, fuck you, go get married. And if you want to help support the channel, check out the links down below. If you buy anything through those links, it helps support the channel. And if you want to help sponsor more reviews in the next year or the coming year, then please consider checking out the PayPal or Cash App down below. And, once again, a huge thank you to Johnny Page for sponsoring this review. I wouldn't have found out about this fanfic without you, my man. And to those who believe that there's a fanfic out there that actually has some interesting stuff, let us know in the comment section down below, or, again, sponsor a PayPal or Cash App review. Till next time, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Airsoft Al, and I will see you all in 2024. Happy holidays, guys.